Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. OP, you were doing the right thing. Protect your property and peace by any means necessary. The a-holes are the ones with the entitled attitude and feels as though they can do as they please. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Getting a do not block driveway sign. I live in a shared apartment with 3 other people, and the building is split into 3 units. Our unit's lease specifically includes the use of a driveway on one side of the house. None of our household have a vehicle at this time, but one of us is intending to buy one in the near future. About 2 weeks ago, a family moved into one of the other units, which was unoccupied for over a year. They've generally been good so far, except for the fact that they have the same guests over almost every day who invariably block our driveway for several hours at a time. This past weekend, we had to buy a new laundry machine and rent a truck for it, and when I drove it to pick up my roommate and some moving equipment, the guest's car was in the way. We asked them to move it politely and explained that we were going to be coming back with a washer and would need to unload it. They moved it and were amicable, but when we came back 2 hours later, their car was blocking the driveway again, so we had to go up to the house and ask them to move once again, while the truck was parked awkwardly in the street. Between the frequency of their visits and continual parking habits, I'm strongly considering getting a do not block driveway sign after asking the landlord if I can put one in the yard. Even though we don't have a car yet, I'm concerned that by the time one of us does, it'll be habitual for them to continue parking there and will be seen as a-holes for making use of the driveway we pay for. The fact that we already had one incident where we explained the driveway needed to be clear for only a couple of hours and they blocked it off as soon as we left doesn't give me much confidence that they'll break such a habit without confrontation. Additionally, blocking driveways is explicitly illegal in all U.S. states, regardless of active occupation of the driveway or even the building, since it may be used by emergency services. I also want to avoid involving law enforcement at any cost, barring worst-case scenario escalation if the neighbors or guests retaliate for some reason. One of my roommates thinks putting up a sign is unnecessary, but I'm not convinced this problem shouldn't be addressed ASAP. ETA. We also need to schedule a bulky item pickup with the city's waste disposal department for our old broken machine, and if the driveway is blocked for that, they won't be able to haul it away. Also, in the meantime, I'm documenting the frequency of driveway blockage, photos with timestamps, just in case I need records to establish a pattern. Edit 2. Emailed landlord, they said they'd address it with the tenants and to keep them posted of any further happenings. Not very exciting, but better than having my door busted down by irate neighbors. And our second story. Stop bothering us with that deadline. We've got this. Sure thing. Hello, everyone. This story's somewhat fresh, and I'm still smirking when I remember it, so I decided to share. Some background. I, 27-year-old female, work in IT. I'm a well-respected and known member of the IT party circle where I live, so to speak. I'm not jaw-dropping, but people know me, and I have a very good reputation. One of the things is that I got to the point of my career when I wanted to give back, so I started mentoring others. Mostly I mentored adults or those who were closer to me in age. Career advice, how to apply for different exchange programs that can boost their professional growth and improve their speaking and writing skills, the usual. But I always was one up for the challenge and decided to try and mentor kids. It's not a secret that IT and STEM are increasingly popular right now, and more people want to get into the field. Therefore, there are myriads of boot camps, hackathons, and mentoring programs for all ages. So I signed up for one such program as a mentor. Teach kids how to code with blocks, tell them what AI is, and how to develop an MVP. It sounds more complicated than it might look at first glance, especially when you're an educated professional with a degree, explaining concepts that are rather complicated to children who may have less than 1/50th of your tech knowledge. I must add that participation in said program gives kids credits and can help them get into better schools or even be eligible for some university scholarships later in life. So only pros if you ask me. The only thing is that they must upload their MVP project to the site before the deadline. I was assigned 2 teams, primary, early middle schoolers, Team A, and high schoolers, Team B. Both had 5 members, and the youngest in Team A was 8 years old. I thought, OMG, that'll be tough, thinking about Team A and how I'm up for a tough time. Also, since they're so young, the parents of the kids must observe Team A meetings and my lessons, and parents equal problems. Ironically, despite my worries, even with help from the parents, the kids in Team A were doing great. But the same can't be said about Team B. A little side note, with my mentees, I have 2 rules. At least 1 meeting per week, at least 50% of the group must be present. Communication. When I type something like tasks to do or reply to a question asked before, I ask my mentees to respond. Not even text, a thumbs up emoji will also suffice. We all know that red status doesn't mean much when you can accidentally open an app for a second and swipe it to clear RAM on the phone. So Team A attended all the meetings and responded to my assignments. There was a curriculum provided by a program to follow, and they were very receptive overall. When Team B started okay, but then started not showing on meetings and leaving assignments read but unresponded. I understand they have a lot on their plate. Exams are no joke, but they disregarded my time, which I will not be okay with. I have a job to do, and mentoring in that program was 100% volunteering, and there was no payment for the mentors. There was, however, a very strict deadline, the middle of April, when their MVPs must be loaded onto the website for later judgment. I, even when pissed, am a professional first and an angry lady second. So I wrote multiple messages asking for updates on the project with warnings at the end that deadline is April 15th, don't miss it. After one such message, the so-called leader of Team B, Sam, wrote to me this. Hi OP, I know that you probably mean well, but you only bother the team with those deadline messages. Can't you, chill out? When we need you, we'll contact you and all. Just get off our hair and let us do our job. I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings. It is what it is. After I read that message, I was like, WTF. But I did respond that I would stop messaging if that caused tension within the team, though the deadline's still on the 15th and the site would reject any application that was uploaded after. Just stop, okay? Jeez, said Sam to that. So I decided, okay, I'm washing my hands of this. Cue malicious compliance. Since that message, I haven't written anything to Team B. I had scheduled no meetings, updates, or checkups about the curriculum or their understanding, and definitely not a written reminder of the deadline once. Deadline came, Team A uploaded their project with no issues, and their parents even bought me a nice box of chocolate as a thank you gesture. Just like the deadline came and went, Team B started bombarding chat, asking me to help because something's wrong with the site. We can't upload our project. I entered the chat and said, yes, it will not upload. No, it's not an issue with the site. The deadline is passed. So if you try to upload it, it will only show you an error message. I warned you kids. No extra credits, no nothing. The rules of that program are simple, but they're hard, no exception ones. Team B tried to blame me, saying that as a mentor, it was my job to ensure they would succeed. I reminded them that my job as a mentor is to provide support and guidance, keep track of their progress, and remind them of the deadline, which all of the above, they, via Sam, asked me not to. And since I respected their boundaries, I did exactly what they'd requested. They can sulk as much as they want. I have all our communication in writing, so they don't have a leg to stand on when trying to accuse me of sabotaging them in the program. Tough luck, kids. And our last story. My tenant cut down trees in my yard. Renters moved in May 15th. They asked that we take the house off the market. They'll sign a 2-year lease and pay $2,000 a month, $100 more than we were asking for. Immediately, they were late paying rent and since then have not paid rent on time once. Numerous messages every month with excuses as to why rent couldn't be paid on time. June 7th, he asked me to pay someone to care for the yard because they couldn't afford a lawnmower. I reminded them that it was in the rental agreement that they care for the yard because we are 10 hours away and that we need a somewhat self-sufficient tenant. More months of late rent and complaints about small issues, which we immediately attended to by sending someone in. Furnace filter needed changing, toilet ring needed replacing, in both bathrooms, dryer needed to be cleaned. July 21st, he messages me about pruning the trees and cutting and getting rid of them. I clearly stated in text that he was not allowed to cut the trees down. September 14th, we have friends come visit and tell us our grass is about 3 feet tall, so I send this message to my tenant. Hey Chris, could you please mow the lawn or at least pay someone to mow it and clean it up? Just got a call from a neighbor concerned that the place isn't being cared for, said the lawn was out of control. He proceeds to bitch that the yard has been a disaster since he moved in the spring and that he shouldn't have to do a dump run for the garbage in the yard. The garbage, I explained, were painted decorative tires for growing potatoes with the garden, and if he wasn't going to use them, he could store them in one of the 3 sheds, but to not throw them out. On October 3rd, he sends me pictures saying he cleaned up the yard, and I see that my apple tree in the front yard is missing, and the chokecherry tree in the backyard is also missing. He did not have permission to cut them down. I explained this to him, and he says, I didn't touch either of the big trees any more than I showed you a couple of months ago, and you had no problem then. If you're not happy, I apologize, but you told me to deal with the yard, so I dealt with it so that I was happy with the way the yard looked. Sorry we didn't know the tree in the front yard was to stay. We checked it, and it hadn't produced anything. We pruned the apple tree end of last summer, so of course it won't produce apples this season. Now he's trying to get out of his lease by telling me to evict him, but I want repayment for my trees. It was stated in the lease that they weren't allowed to remove any permanent fixtures pertaining to the property without written consent from us. Before I sue him, I'm going to have him removed from my property. It looks like he might do some vindictive, nasty stuff when he leaves, and I'll have a hard time recovering from him. Update: I kept the security deposit on the apartment after he moved out and planted a new tree with that money. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.